Okay, so let's talk about all of this. I'm joined by Trump supporter and talk radio host John Phillips. Welcome. And also I'm joined by the director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics, Larry Sabato, and David Kusnet, a former chief speechwriter for President Bill Clinton. Welcome to all of you. Okay, so John, I want to start with you.
Sure.
So Donald Trump Jr.'s speech was so positive. Tiffany Trump's speech made me smile. Very sweet, positive, upbeat. But then you had all the other speakers last night just going completely negative on Hillary Clinton. And it was supposed to be about the economy. That was supposed to be the theme last night.
You know, I think last night ended up being Hispanic outreach night because Donald Trump brought a piñata, and the piñata's name was Hillary Clinton. And I think it was a twofer. I think a majority of the American people do not believe that Hillary Clinton is an honest and trustworthy person. So by attacking her...
Don't Republicans get that by now?
Well, but by attacking her and by attacking her character, you're appealing not just to Republicans, but a majority of Americans. And if you look at that field of 17, they had stark disagreements on trade, on immigration, on foreign policy. The one thing the Republicans all had in common was they thought that Hillary Clinton also was a dishonest, untrustworthy person.
So the idea, Larry, is to paint Hillary Clinton as a criminal, because if she's a criminal, and if you vote for her, you're going to put a criminal in office, and it's better to put a man who maybe doesn't have the experience that she does, right?
Essentially, let me make clear, my view is it was completely over the top. Lucifer, really? Lucifer? Beyond that, though, look beyond Ben Carson and look beyond the chance of jail her, you know, jail to the chief, I guess. We're back to Nixon again. I think essentially what they were trying to do is to concede that it is much more difficult to sell Donald Trump. It is far easier to attack and degrade Hillary Clinton. Because again, these two candidates have extremely high unfavorables. So, you know, how are you going to spend your time? You're going to try and rebuild Donald Trump's favorables? Good luck with that one. You're going to continue to undermine Hillary Clinton, and that's what they tried to do.
So David, during the Democratic convention in Philadelphia, will we see Mr. Trump being portrayed as a racist over and over and over again?
I think you're going to hear a lot more positive from and about Hillary Clinton and her running mate than you heard anything positive last night. You were told that the theme last night was going to be something like put America to work again, and instead the theme seemed to be let's bash Hillary Clinton all over again and all over again. And having worked in and observed campaigns since 1984, I think that's the harshest rhetoric I have ever heard from either party in a national convention. I remember that in 1980, President Reagan, Ronald Reagan, candidate Reagan, had a stump speech where he said how wonderful it would be if Jimmy Carter lost his job. And in 1992, Bill Clinton had an acceptance speech, which sort of in a light way, he said that what it took for a recovery was for one more American to lose their job, and Mr. President, you are that man. But saying that your opponent needs to go to jail and make lock her up, the litany of the night, that is a new kind of rhetoric for either party to have.
And John, do you really think that will attract moderate voters or voters who might not have made up their minds, or young people who really don't like negative stuff like that?
Well, I want to disagree with one point that David just made, in that Hillary Clinton is going to have a positive, optimistic convention. The last 3 weeks, we've seen Elizabeth Warren's one-woman production of 12 Angry Men going after Donald Trump. I mean, they've been going after Donald Trump's jugular just as much as it has been going the other way.
So on the subject of Donald Trump's children, because I thought their speeches were fantastic last night, and there are more to come, right?
There are more to come. There are 6 Trumps, 6 people in his immediate family who are featured speakers. Now, I know history is a stubborn thing, so I went back and I checked all of the post-World War II conventions, Democratic and Republican, the Kennedys, the Clintons, the Bushes, the Fords, the Carters. They all had loads of kids. Never has there been 6 members of the family or anything close to it as major speakers pushing a candidate for president. It's obvious why.
Well, tell it. It's obvious why.
Trump has made a virtue of necessity. The truth is that most of the Republican establishment has had to mow their lawn this week. They've had some important duties that have been on the calendar that have kept them away from Cleveland. So a lot of normal speakers, like, say, former Republican presidents and former Republican nominees for president, they were really busy and couldn't come, so they had to fill the time. This humanizes Trump in a way that others couldn't. So maybe it does some good for him. But let's remember why they're there every single night.
And I'll get to you in a minute, David, but I want to pose this to you, John. So it is great to hear from Mr. Trump's kids,
Sure.
but they don't know how to run a government. And isn't that what the convention is in part to showcase about Mr. Trump, why he should be president why he's qualified to be president of the United States? As a voter, wouldn't I rather hear from people who can tell me that, who know a thing or two about government?
Well, one of the things that's been viciously attacked so far in this cycle is his character. They've said he's a racist, they've said he's a bigot, they said he's a misogynist. So you need character references to go out there to say, no, he's not that guy. He's a great father. He's someone who respects women. He's someone who is very involved in their lives.
I know, but so he's a great father. That doesn't mean he's going to be a great president.
Well, if the attack is that he's a misogynist and a racist, I think the people that know him best would be the people to say that he's not.
David, what do you think?
Well, as a speechwriter, I've always believed that a speech or any kind of communication needs an emotional structure as well as a logical structure. And I'd agree that the speeches by his children were very, very effective yesterday, but to couple these kinds of warm feelings with the kinds of harsh attacks that you had on the same evening in the same hall, I think it's just clashing. You don't have a Hallmark card and an indictment right next to each other.
And David, I did want to ask you about this because this is, of course, it's all over the internet. So supposedly Donald Trump Jr. said he wrote his own speech, but when people noticed his address mirrored a passage in a book by Frank Buckley piped up to say, hey, you know what? I helped write the speech. It's okay that he took my line. I'm okay with that. And I don't know, what's wrong with saying someone helped me write my speech? I mean, you're a speechwriter. Do you care that people use your words without attribution?
Well, I think many Americans now are getting a tutorial in sort of the ethics of the informal profession of speechwriting. And I think the first rule is you don't borrow large amounts of content from someone else without attributing it. And I think the second rule is you don't set up a situation where you're going to claim credit for the person's speech in real time. And what Mr. Buckley did, what in ordinary circumstances was understandable. He took something that he had written under his own name and he used it in a draft for a public speaker. But coming after the controversy about the borrowing in Mrs. Trump's speech, he should have pulled that material or paraphrased it or done something, because it set up a situation where he had to come forward and claim credit for very effective words that the candidate's son had spoken, and he had to do it in real time.
All right, I have to leave it there. Larry Sabato, John Phillips, and David Kusnet, thanks to all of you. Still to come in the newsroom, it is one of the top issues, if not the